Move. He's about to sit here, she whispered, pushing me aside when her ex walked in. So I got up without a word. 3 days later, she was begging me to come back after he asked her to leave before breakfast. Hey viewers, this channel was recently demonetized. If you'd like to help keep these stories coming, my Patreon is linked below. Thanks for your support. Now, let's get into today's story. I never thought I'd be the guy posting here. I'm not much of a writer, and honestly, I spent years believing these nightmare relationship stories only happened to other people. The dramatic ones, the ones who ignore red flags. I wasn't ignoring anything. I thought I was happy. Jenna and I had been together for just over 2 years. We met through mutual friends at a house party. She walked up to me while I was awkwardly hovering near the snack table and said, "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else." I laughed, admitted she was right, and we talked for 3 hours. She was magnetic back then. Quick to smile, sharp sense of humor, the kind of person who could make a boring Tuesday feel like an event. The first year was genuinely good. She had her flaws, who doesn't? But I believed we were building something solid. I helped her move out of a terrible apartment with a landlord who refused to fix the heat. I stayed up until 2 a.m. helping her rehearse for a job interview that she ended up nailing. I bought concert tickets for her favorite band 6 months in advance because I knew she'd cry when she saw them live. She did cry. I held her hand the whole show. I'm not saying any of this to paint myself as a saint. I'm saying it because I want you to understand that I was all in. I wasn't half invested. I wasn't keeping one eye on the exit. I was the guy who showed up. Around the 6-month mark, I started hearing about Mark. Mark was her ex. Not just any ex, the ex. The one before me. The one she'd dated for 3 years. The one who apparently broke her heart into pieces when he left. I heard his name in passing comments at first. Mark used to hate this restaurant. Mark always said I talked too fast. Mark and I drove through this neighborhood once. It bothered me, but I told myself it was normal. People have histories. People carry baggage. I wasn't going to be the insecure boyfriend who freaked out over a name. So I let it slide. And then I let it slide again. And again. By the 2nd year, Mark's name had faded somewhat. She mentioned him less. I assumed, stupidly, I now realize, that she had finally put him behind her. We talked about moving in together. I started looking at bigger apartments. She said she loved the idea. She said she loved me. I believed her. The Sunday it all fell apart was unseasonably warm. Blue sky, light breeze, the kind of morning that makes you feel optimistic for no good reason. Jenna suggested brunch at this cafe downtown, a trendy spot with exposed brick walls and overpriced avocado toast. She'd been distant all week, distracted and short-tempered, but I figured she was stressed about work. I figured wrong. We got a table near the window. She was wearing that yellow sundress I'd told her once made her look like sunshine. I remember thinking she looked beautiful. I remember thinking how lucky I was. We ordered coffee. She barely looked at the menu. She kept glancing at her phone, then at the door, then at her phone again. Her leg was bouncing under the table, a nervous habit she'd had since childhood, she'd told me. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine," she said, not looking at me. "Just fine." I should have pressed. Maybe I didn't want to know. And then the door opened, and her entire face transformed. I can't describe it any other way. It was like someone had flipped a switch. Her eyes widened, her posture straightened, and a smile spread across her face that I hadn't seen in months. Not aimed at me, not in a long time. She was suddenly, completely alive. I followed her gaze to the door. A guy stood there. Tall, athletic build, dark hair, with the kind of casual confidence that comes from never being told no. He was scanning the room with a faint smirk, like he already knew everyone wanted his attention. Mark. I didn't know it was him at first. Not consciously, but my body knew. Something cold settled in my stomach. Jenna's hand shot out and grabbed my forearm. Her nails dug in. "Move," she whispered. I stared at her. "What? Move." Her voice was low, urgent, almost frantic. "He's about to sit here. Just go to the bathroom or something. I'll explain later." I blinked. I genuinely, honestly thought I had misheard her. "Jenna, what are you?" She physically pushed my arm, shoving me toward the edge of the booth, her eyes never leaving Mark's approaching figure. Her wedding fever smile was back in place, plastered on and radiant. "Go," she hissed. "Now." I sat frozen for what felt like an hour, but was probably 3 seconds. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw nothing I recognized. There was no hesitation in her expression. No guilt. No flicker of apology. She wasn't worried about how this would make me feel. She wasn't worried about me at all. She was worried about me being in the way. Mark was maybe 15 feet from our table now. Close enough that I could see the smug half-grin on his face. Close enough that I could see him look at me with the faintest flicker of amusement, like I was a piece of furniture he was about to replace. Something inside me went very, very quiet. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't demand an explanation or make a scene. I simply reached into my pocket, pulled out a $20 bill, and set it on the table next to my untouched coffee. Then I slid out of the booth. Jenna exhaled in what sounded like relief. She was already shifting over, already adjusting her hair, already erasing me from the moment. I walked past Mark without looking at him. I walked past the hostess stand without a word. I walked out the front door and into the bright Sunday sunshine, and I kept walking until I reached my car. The drive home took 12 minutes. I don't remember any of it. I do remember sitting in my parked car in the lot outside my apartment, hands still on the steering wheel, staring at the dashboard. The radio was off. The engine was running. I sat there for a long time, and my mind started pulling up memories like a playlist I hadn't asked to hear. The weekend I skipped the guys' trip to the mountains, the one they'd been planning for a year, because Jenna needed help moving out of that crappy apartment. I canceled my flight 2 days before departure. My friends were understanding, but I could hear the disappointment in their voices. I told myself it was worth it. She needed me. The 3 nights in a row I stayed up until 2 a.m., running through mock interview questions with her. She was panicking, certain she wasn't good enough, and I kept telling her she was brilliant, kept coaching her through every answer until she believed it. She got the job. She called me crying with happiness. I was the first person she told. The concert tickets. I bought them in January for a show in July. Her favorite band. I set a calendar reminder so I wouldn't miss the pre-sale. She talked about seeing them live since she was a teenager. When they walked on stage, she grabbed my hand so hard it hurt, and tears streamed down her face, and she turned to me and said, "This is the best night of my life." I did all of that. I gave all of that. And she pushed me out of a booth so another man could sit down. I turned off the engine and went inside. The next hour was a strange, hollow blur. I sat on my couch and stared at the wall. My phone buzzed a few times, notifications I didn't check. Social media, probably. Work emails. Nothing that mattered. At some point, I stood up and started rearranging my apartment. Not dramatically, just small things. I moved the throw pillows she'd picked out from the couch to the closet. I took the framed photo of us from the bookshelf and slid it into a drawer. I threw away a half-empty bottle of her shampoo she'd left in my bathroom. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was something else, hollowed out, like someone had scooped out my insides and left only quiet. That evening, around 7, there was a knock at my door. I knew it was her before I looked through the peephole. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me wanted to see what she could possibly say. I opened the door. Jenna stood on my doorstep, arms crossed, jaw tight. She didn't look sad. She didn't look apologetic. She looked annoyed. "You completely overreacted," she said. I just looked at her. "Mark was back in town," she continued, pushing past me into my apartment without being invited. "I didn't want things to be awkward. You made it weird by storming out. Do you know how embarrassing that was for me?" I closed the door slowly. "Embarrassing for you?" "Yes." She turned to face me, her voice rising. "You didn't even say anything. You just left, like a child throwing a tantrum." I walked past her and sat down on the arm of the couch. "You told me to move so another man could sit in my chair." "Oh my God." She rolled her eyes so hard it looked painful. "It wasn't like that. Mark and I have history. Real history. I needed to know if there was still something there. You can't blame me for that." I said nothing. She took my silence as an opening. "Look, I didn't plan for this to happen, okay? But when I saw him, I felt something. And I owe it to myself to explore that. You don't understand what Mark and I had. He was my whole world before you. And what was I?" I asked. My voice was calm. Curious, almost. She hesitated. Then she said it. "You were just a comfortable chapter." The words hung in the air between us. "I care about you," she added, as if that helped. "But comfortable isn't the same as right. Mark challenges me. Mark makes me feel alive. You're stable. Safe. Boring, honestly. And I realized today that I don't want boring." I nodded slowly. "Okay." She blinked. "Okay. We're done," I said. "Lose my number." Her expression flickered. Surprise. then something harder. She straightened up, her eyes narrowing. "Fine," she said. "But don't come crawling back when you realize I was the best thing that ever happened to you." She grabbed her bag from where she'd dropped it on my counter and walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the knob, looking back over her shoulder, clearly waiting for me to break. To beg. To give her the satisfaction of seeing me shattered. I just watched her. She huffed, opened the door, and left. I sat there for a long time after she was gone. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you confront everything you've been avoiding. I thought about calling my friends. I thought about getting drunk. I thought about a lot of things. Instead, I picked up my phone and blocked her number. Then I blocked her on every social media platform I could think of. Then I blocked her email address. I deleted our text history. I deleted our photos. I didn't post a sad status or a cryptic quote. I didn't want attention. I didn't want sympathy. I just wanted her gone. I didn't sleep well that night. My mind kept replaying the brunch, kept showing me that smile. The one she gave Mark, the one she hadn't given me in months. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard her voice move. "He's about to sit here." But I didn't reach out. I didn't unblock her. I didn't write a long message and delete it. I just lay in the dark, breathing, waiting for the morning. 3 days later, the voicemail started. The first voicemail came on a Wednesday afternoon, exactly 3 days after I walked out of that cafe. I was at my kitchen table, eating a sandwich I'd made without much enthusiasm, when my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring. A minute later, the voicemail notification appeared. Against my better judgment, I pressed play. "Hey, it's me." Jenna's voice. Tentative. Almost casual, like she was testing the temperature of a bath. "So that thing with Mark was stupid. I don't know why I made such a big deal out of it. Call me when you're done pouting, okay? We should talk." I deleted it and went back to my sandwich. The second voicemail arrived later that night. Different number. Same voice. This time, the casual tone was gone. "Liam, please. I know you're getting these. I know you're blocking me. Just call me back. Something happened. Mark he's not who I thought he was. I need you. Please. I'm begging you." I stared at my phone for a long moment. Then I blocked that number too. The third voicemail came the following morning. She was crying now, the words tumbling out between ragged breaths. "I made a mistake, okay? A really, really bad mistake. He asked me to leave, Liam. He woke up and looked at me like I was nothing and told me he had a real date coming over and I needed to be gone before breakfast. Before breakfast. I was still in his bed and he was already erasing me. Is this what you wanted to hear? That you were right? Fine. You were right. Now please just pick up." I didn't pick up. I sat there in the morning quiet, sunlight slanting through my kitchen window, and let the voicemail play out into silence. Some part of me expected to feel vindicated, or angry, or something, but what I mostly felt was tired. A deep, bone-level exhaustion, like my body had been running a marathon I hadn't signed up for and had finally crossed the finish line. I thought about calling her back. Not to reconcile, God, no, but to say something cutting. Something that would make her feel even a fraction of what I'd felt in that cafe. But I didn't, because calling her back, even to hurt her, would have meant she still had power over me. And I was done giving her power. Instead, I kept rebuilding. Quietly, methodically. I rearranged my apartment the way I wanted it, without anyone else's preferences in mind. I put my books back on the shelf she'd cleared for her decorative candles. I started cooking meals I liked, not meals she approved of. I went for long walks in the evening. No phone, no music, just the sound of my own footsteps on the pavement. I wasn't happy. Not yet. But I was something adjacent to peace. And peace, after what I'd been through, felt like a victory. The silence lasted 2 more days. Then the flying monkeys arrived. I was at work when my desk phone rang. Internal call. Someone had been transferred through. I picked up without thinking. "Liam? It's Rachel." Rachel was Jenna's best friend. They'd known each other since college. I'd never been her biggest fan. She had a way of treating Jenna's bad behavior like a personality quirk instead of a problem, but I'd always been polite. I'd always assumed she meant well. I knew better now. "Rachel," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "I'm at work." I know. This'll only take a second." She didn't sound sorry. She sounded impatient. "Look, I'm calling because someone needs to talk some sense into you. Jenna is a mess. A complete and total mess. She's not eating. She's not sleeping. She's crying all the time. And frankly, Liam, it's your fault. I leaned back in my chair. My fault. Yes, your fault. Rachel's voice sharpened. She made one tiny mistake. One. And you just, what, disappeared? Blocked her on everything? That's not how adults handle conflict. A real man would forgive her. A real man would at least hear her out. I let the silence stretch. Are you still there? Rachel demanded. I'm here. Well, what do you have to say for yourself? I thought about it for a moment. I could have listed everything Jenna had done. I could have explained the humiliation, the dismissal, the way she'd physically pushed me out of a booth so another man could take my place. I could have told Rachel about the comfortable chapter line, about the boring dig, about the way Jenna had looked at Mark like he was a sunrise and I was a lamp she'd forgotten to turn off. But Rachel already knew all of that. Jenna had definitely told her. And Rachel had still chosen to call me and frame it as my failure. So I didn't explain. She's your family problem now, I said. Not mine. Don't call again. I hung up before she could respond. The phone rang again 30 seconds later. I didn't answer. It rang a third time. I forwarded it to voicemail and got back to work. That weekend, Jenna showed up at my door. I knew it was her before I looked through the peephole. I could hear her breathing on the other side. Fast, shallow, like she'd been running or crying or both. I stood there in my living room, hand hovering over the deadbolt, and felt a strange, quiet calm settle over me. She knocked. Soft at first, then harder. Liam, I know you're in there. Your car's in the lot. I didn't move. Please, she said through the door. Her voice was hoarse. Please just open up. I need to see you. I need to explain. Silence. I was stupid, okay? She was crying now. I could hear the tears thickening her words. I was so stupid. He was just using me. The whole time. He didn't want me back. He just wanted to see if he could still have me. And the second I gave in, he was done. He looked at me like I was garbage, Liam. Like I was nothing. And I realized what I threw away. I threw away the only person who ever actually loved me. Her palm hit the door. Not a pound. More like a desperate, flat-handed press, like she was trying to reach through the wood. I miss you, she said. I miss us. I miss the way you used to look at me. Nobody's ever looked at me like that. And I ruined it. I know I ruined it. But I can fix it. Please let me fix it. I stayed quiet. Not to punish her. Not to make her suffer. But because I genuinely had nothing to say. The words she wanted, forgiveness, comfort, reassurance, didn't exist inside me anymore. She'd scraped them out. I was empty of her. The silence stretched. And then, as if a switch had been flipped, her tone changed. Are you even in there? Her voice hardened. Are you just standing behind the door, listening to me beg? That's sick, Liam. That's actually sick. You're enjoying this, aren't you? You're loving it. I didn't respond. You think you're so much better than me? The tears were still there, but now they were mixed with something uglier. Anger. You're not. You're boring, Liam. You've always been boring. Mark was right about you. You're just a placeholder. A placeholder who got lucky. That's all you ever were. She waited. I said nothing. Open the damn door. Her fist hit the wood hard now. 3 sharp bangs that echoed in my quiet apartment. Open it. Stop being a coward and face me. I looked through the peephole. Her face was twisted, mascara streaked down her cheeks, teeth bared. She looked nothing like the woman I'd loved. She looked like a stranger having a breakdown on my doorstep. I'm not opening the door, I said. My voice was calm. Steady. We're strangers now. She froze. Strangers? She let out a laugh, high and sharp and unstable. After everything we had, after 2 years, I'm a stranger. Yes. You're a monster, she spat. A cold, heartless monster. I wasted 2 years on you. I hope you die alone. I heard her footsteps retreating down the hallway, fast and uneven. Then the stairwell door slammed shut. I stood there for a minute. 2 minutes. The apartment was quiet again. I walked back to my couch, sat down, and exhaled slowly. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel anything resembling guilt. What I felt was relief. The mask had slipped. The sweet, remorseful act had crumbled the moment she didn't get what she wanted, and underneath it was the same entitled, cruel person who had pushed me out of a booth 3 days earlier. She hadn't changed. She hadn't grown. She just realized she'd lost something stable and wanted it back. Not me, just the safety I represented. And I was done being anyone's safety net. A few weeks passed. I'd like to say I had some dramatic transformation during that time, that I hit the gym obsessively, got a promotion, discovered a hidden talent for painting. The truth is less cinematic. I went to work. I came home. I cooked dinner. I read books. I took walks. I slowly, quietly, started to feel like myself again. The voicemails eventually stopped. Rachel stopped calling. Jenna stopped showing up at my door. The silence I'd forced into existence became natural, comfortable, real. And then, one Saturday morning, my friend Alex called. "Hey man," he said. "I'm having a barbecue next weekend. Nothing fancy, just burgers and beer in the backyard. You should come." "Yeah," I said. "Maybe I will." "Fair warning," Alex added, his voice careful. "Jenna might show up. Rachel's been pushing to bring her." I told them both to behave themselves, but I considered this. A few weeks ago, the thought of seeing her would have made my stomach clench. Now, I felt nothing. "It's fine," I said. "I'll be there." I hung up and looked out the window. The sun was shining, bright and warm, the same way it had been on that Sunday at the cafe. But this time, the light didn't remind me of what I'd lost. It reminded me that I was still here, still standing, still moving forward. And I wasn't looking back. The day of Alex's barbecue was the kind of perfect Saturday that used to feel like a promise. Blue sky, light breeze, the smell of charcoal drifting through the neighborhood. I showed up around 2 in the afternoon with a 6-pack of beer and a bag of chips, because I wasn't the guy who showed up empty-handed. Alex's backyard was already half full. A handful of mutual friends, some neighbors, a few people I didn't recognize. Music played from a Bluetooth speaker on the patio table, nothing too loud, just enough to fill the gaps in conversation. Kids ran through the grass with water guns. Someone's dog was making a very optimistic case for why it deserved a burger. It was normal, easy, good. I grabbed a beer, found a spot near the grill, and let myself fall into the rhythm of small talk. A guy named Derek asked me about work. A woman from Alex's office told a long story about a disastrous camping trip. I laughed when it was funny. I nodded when it wasn't. I wasn't performing happiness. I actually felt okay. Better than okay. I felt like myself again, or at least a version of myself that had been buried for a while and was finally breathing fresh air. And then, around 3:30, Jenna walked through the side gate. Rachel was with her, hovering like a nervous handler. Jenna looked different than the last time I'd seen her, the time she'd screamed at me through my apartment door. She was dressed carefully, a sundress similar to the one she'd worn at the cafe, her hair done, makeup subtle. She'd clearly put effort into looking good. But there were cracks in the presentation. Shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't fully hide. A tension in her shoulders that didn't belong at a casual barbecue. She scanned the yard, and her eyes found me almost immediately. I didn't look away. I didn't glare. I just gave her the same neutral nod I'd give any acquaintance and turned back to my conversation with Derek. From the corner of my eye, I watched her navigate the party. She said hello to a few people, accepted a drink from Rachel, laughed at something that didn't reach her eyes. She was circling, waiting for her moment. It came about an hour later, when I stepped away from the group to grab another beer from the cooler near the back fence. "Liam." Her voice was soft, rehearsed. She'd been practicing this. I turned. She was standing a few feet away, alone. Rachel had strategically vanished. "Jenna," I said. No warmth. No anger. Just acknowledgement. "Can we talk?" She gestured vaguely toward a quieter corner of the yard. "Just for a minute. Please." I considered saying no. I considered walking away without a word, the same way I'd walked out of that cafe. But something in me, maybe the part that had spent weeks in silence, rebuilding, wanted to see how this would feel. Wanted to know if she still had any weight. "Sure," I said. We stepped a few paces away from the crowd, near a blooming hydrangea bush that hummed with bees. Jenna clasped her hands in front of her, then unclasped them, then crossed her arms. She couldn't seem to figure out what to do with her body. "I've been thinking a lot," she began. "About us. About everything." I waited. "I was scared," she said. "Of real commitment. Of being happy. I didn't know how to handle what we had, so I sabotaged it. Losing you made me grow, Liam. It forced me to grow." She looked up at me, her eyes glistening. "Can we just talk? I miss us. I miss you." I let the words hang in the air. Then I spoke. "You told me to move so someone else could sit down." She flinched. "I did," I said. "And now I've moved so far past that table, I don't even remember what the coffee tasted like." "That's not fair," she whispered, her voice cracking. I was confused. You can't hold one mistake against me forever. You told me I was a comfortable chapter, I said. Do you remember that? She didn't answer. Her mouth opened, then closed. Guess what? That chapter's over. The book's closed. You don't get to reread it just because the new one was a paragraph. A tear spilled down her cheek. Liam, I'm not angry, I said. I'm not hurt. You're just not my life anymore. She stood there, frozen, her rehearsed speech crumbling into silence. For a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Not anger, not sadness, but understanding. The realization that she had no leverage, no power, no place in my world. I didn't wait for a response. I turned and walked back toward the grill, where Alex was flipping burgers and Derek was arguing about some football game. Alex glanced at me as I approached. Everything okay? Yeah, I said. Hey, did you try the potato salad? It's incredible. He grinned, and the conversation moved on. From the corner of my eye, I saw Rachel appear at Jenna's side. Jenna was wiping her face, her shoulders hunched. Rachel shot me a dirty look. I didn't care. I didn't care about any of it. A few minutes later, they left. No dramatic exit, no slammed gate. Just two people walking away from a party they'd never really belonged at. The barbecue wound down around 6. I helped Alex clean up, stacking chairs and hauling trash bags to the cans by the garage. It was the kind of mindless work that feels satisfying after a good day, the body moving while the mind rests. On the drive home, I rolled down my windows. The evening air was cooling, carrying the smell of cut grass and someone's distant bonfire. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't need noise. I thought about Jenna, not in the way I used to think about her, not with longing or anger or unfinished business. I thought about her the way you think about a storm you once got caught in, years ago. It happened. It was hard. And then it passed, and the sky cleared, and you kept walking. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't triumphant. I was just done. When I got home, I parked in my usual spot, walked up the stairs to my apartment, and unlocked the door. The place was quiet. My place. No throw pillows I hadn't chosen. No framed photos hidden in drawers. No ghost of anyone lingering in the corners. I kicked off my shoes, poured a glass of water, and stood at the window, watching the sky fade from blue to orange to gray. Once, I'd thought losing her would break me. It had felt, on that Sunday, like something vital had been torn out of me and tossed aside without a second thought. But here I was, still standing, still whole, still moving forward. And she was just a stranger who'd once sat across from me at a table that didn't exist anymore. I finished my water. I went to bed early, and I slept better than I had in months. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. If you enjoy these stories and would like to help support the channel, my Patreon is linked in the description. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments.